So the next talk is hypoxia during VV ECMO. That's what we quite often see in a very severe ARDS patient, and that is I also agree that it's a very important topic, especially those who are doing ECMO. They must have found these problems quite often. Now, first is what should be an acceptable blood gases on ECMO, especially when on VV ECMO and the patients on VV ECMO. Usually what we go is we accept a PO2 of more than 50 and SpO2 more than 88% on patients on VV ECMO. But at times we find that they are still not maintaining the SpO2 and PO2 of 50. In cases where we have even managed with a PO2 of more than 40 to 45 and SpO2 of around 70. But in that case, what we do is we monitor the sensorium, we see the tissue perfusion, we see the urine output, lactate levels, and we try to keep the hematocrits high. So this is something which is usually we feel odd that such a low PO2 and such a low saturation, will that cause some hypoxic damage? But with a lot of experience, usually the hypoxia does not create much of a problem if we are monitoring with the lactate levels in that, even the sensorium in that. So, because during an ECMO run, there are multiple things that come. You can improve the saturation by going up on the flow, but if you are already on flow from more than 6 liters or so, then it's going to be really difficult, because if you go much off on the flow, again the chance of hemolysis increases. So all the things are going to have a plus point and negative point. So in that case, we have to see what will be the acceptable levels. Okay. PCO2 levels we usually maintain around 45. pH we try to keep it more than 7.25. Even PCO2 around 50-55 is sometimes accepted, but the pH has to be most important. The pH has to be maintained. What is most important in the entire thing is important to give rest to the lungs. Okay. Many times what happens when patients start desaturating, the reflex action goes to that we start going up on ventilator settings, we increase the pressure, so we try to increase the tidal, we try to increase the FiO2, and again then the entire purpose of putting the patients on ECMO gets defeated. So the most important is to give rest to the lungs. Worst come to worst, you maintain or you accept the lower saturations and go ahead. So what are the factors which affects the SpO2 on VV ECMO? Number one is ECMO flow. How much is the flow? If the flow is more will be the saturation. So you can increase the flow and thereby increase the saturation. ECMO FiO2, usually we keep it around almost 100% when we start the patients on ECMO. We come down on ECMO FiO2 only when we think of weaning the patient from ECMO. So that is again will improve the oxygenation. Your ventilator settings will depend upon that, FiO2 of ventilator and PEEP of ventilator. If you increase the PEEP or if you increase the FiO2, the saturation is going to be definitely going to go more. Recirculation, that is going to be a biggest problem during an VV ECMO run. So if you get a recirculation, the same blood is going back to the your ECMO circuit and not going to the native circulation. That is why the saturation is not coming up even if you go up above the flow. The lung status of the patient lungs deteriorates, or some patient develops pneumothorax, or the lungs, the parenchymal disease worsens, then again the saturation is going to go down because the native contribution by the patient is going to come down. And the last is an oxygenator status of the membrane oxygenator. So if the oxygenator is getting failed, again your saturation will go down. So SpO2 increased on VV ECMO can be because of decreased recirculation. That is not always a good sign that when the saturation is improved, it not always means that our patient lung is improving. No, it can be initially the patient was having a lot of recirculation, now the recirculation is decreased, and that's the reason with the same flow your saturation is improved. Lung condition is improving, that is another possibility, and by any chance somebody has increased the ECMO flow or ECMO FiO2 or ventilator FiO2, again the saturation can increase. Similarly, decrease in saturation can be number one, increase recirculation. That is the first thing you should always think of. The increase in recirculation can give to decrease in the saturation, or the lung condition is worsening, so parenchymal worsening versus pneumothorax. There can be some technical issues like oxygenator must have got disconnected or something of that sort. That will again give to oxygenator failure, decrease in ECMO flow or FiO2, or increased cardiac output. Even in this increased cardiac output, what you are doing, you are only oxygenating the part of the cardiac output. You are not completely oxygenating. So the cardiac output increases, the ECMO output is going to remain the same. Even if your native cardiac output has increased, your ECMO output is going to be the same. So you are decreasing the fraction of the blood which you are putting oxygenating. That's the reason their saturation can drop with the increase in cardiac output. Now question is that suppose the patient is already on baby ECMO and he was doing well and suddenly he develops an hypoxia. How will you go and how will you try to improve the hypoxia? There are basically three ways which you can do it. One is you can maximize the gas transfer. So you can increase the ECMO flow, you can increase the ECMO FiO2, and if that nothing works, then you can increase the hematocrit to maintain the good oxygen delivery. Second thing, you can minimize the oxygen utilization. So if you cannot improve the gas transfer, you can think of minimizing the oxygen utilization by decreasing the metabolic rate. So if the patient is running fever, patient is restless, then you can try to control fever, you can try to give sedation and try to give rest to the patient, and you can at times even induce hypothermia to decrease the metabolic rate and thereby improve the oxygenation. And last and the most important is decreasing the recirculation. You have to always, whenever patient is on BB ECMO and if you see the saturation is going down, calculate the recirculation. And if the recirculation is more than 30%, definitely you have to do something to decrease the recirculation, and that will only improve the oxygenation. First thing is, how will you maximize the blood flow through the system? So, achieve the highest possible flow through the system, capture the greatest possible fraction of the venous return, and ensure that recirculation does not occur. So, for that, if you require to put 2 cannulas, you can put 2 cannulas and try to get the maximum flow. So, the flow will depend upon the cannula size, the cannula configuration, the cannula position, and the venous pressures. So cannula size, so you have to put an adequate size drainage cannula. Always your drainage cannula is going to be bigger than the return cannula. Okay? In an adult with weighing more than 60 kg, you usually use 27 to 29 French venous cannula to get an adequate flow. Okay? So that is what is most important. And definitely some special cannulas like smart cannula, Avalon cannula will definitely help to get a better flow. But another point that you have to keep in mind is the size of the cannula is, there has to be a sufficient the vessel size. If the vessel size is small, the patient is obese, but vessel size is small, if you put a cannula which is bigger enough, that might just get collapsed to the wall and you may not get an adequate flow. So that is what is most important is. We always monitor the pre-pump pressures and the post-pump pressures. So the pre-pump pressure should not go more than -60, because otherwise it will give us more of hemolysis, and sometimes if it goes more than -200, it can give us even cavitation also. And the pressure limits of post-occidental pressures should not go 300. Cannula configuration, you can use a dual drainage cannula, or you can use a composite cannula. So you can, if you are not getting adequate flow from one side, you can put 2 cannulas, or you can use a double lumen cannulas and try to get the flow, or you can use a composite cannula like your smart cannulas. So dual cannula, if the hypoxia persists, so you are draining from the IVC, you are draining from the SVC, and you are returning back to the RA. So that is what you can do. You can use 2 cannulas for getting a better flow, and even when you are using 2 cannulas, one in IVC and one in SVC, you are even decreasing chances of recirculation also. Composite cannula like double lumen cannulas. So what is happening is we are draining from the Avalon cannulas. We have a side port which is you can see the side port which is there in the IVC also, and which is there in SVC. So from both IVC and SVC the blood is drained, and the return cannula is going to face your tricuspid valve. So that will be directly going to the tricuspid. So chance of recirculation decreases, and you get a maximum flow both from the SVC as well as from the IVC. Smart cannula is not available, but then it gets open up and it gets adequate to the size of the vessel wall, so the flow will be much better with the smart cannula. It's not available in India. Cannula position is again going to be a most important factor which decides the two things. One is the flow and second is the recirculation. If your cannula position, your drainage cannula and return cannulas are very close to each other, then you get more of a recirculation chance. That is number one. And suppose second thing is, if your drainage cannula is much lower down, it might give us to collapse. Usually in the hepatic IVC is non-collapsible IVC, so if your cannula position in hepatic IVC, the chances of the caval collapse is going to be much less. How will you maximize the gas transfer? That number one is, that is by increasing the hematocrit. So if you increase the hematocrit, if you increase the hemoglobin levels, definitely the oxygen delivery is going to be better and the tissue oxygenation is going to be better. And things minimizing the oxygen utilization. So you try to decrease the metabolic rate by decreasing the, if there is a fever, again the metabolic activity is increased, try to decrease fever. If person is agitated, restless, again give sedation and try to decrease the metabolic rate. And if everything is fine, still you are not getting good saturation, you can even induce hypothermia, and hypothermia will improve the oxygenation. Okay. So when the cooling the patient reduces the volume of oxygen transferred to the lung, and oxygen efficiency increases as the consumption decreases. So whenever the consumption decreases, the delivery is going to be better. But why don't we cool all the patients who is hypoxic? The reason is it can increase the infection, it can cause arrhythmias, you can have coagulopathies, and your drug metabolism also can get affected. So usually you don't prefer to use the cooling as a first method, or hypothermia as a first method of managing the hypothermia. That should be as a last choice we keep it. The most important is decreasing the recirculation in VVA. So what is recirculation? It is an oxygenated blood from the returning cannula goes back to the draining cannula without going to the systemic circulation. So actually, even though this blood is oxygenated, that does not go to the systemic circulation or native circulation, so it does not take part at all in the oxygenation, and it goes back to the drainage cannula, so it keeps on recirculating. If it is seen with a single side double lumen VV cannula, if they are not placed properly, so if your returning cannula of the double lumen is not passing the tricuspid valve, or it's not properly placed, then you get a more of a recirculation. And you can get recirculation if you are draining from the jugular vein and returning the femoral vein. Two-side VV ECMO, if you are draining from jugular vein and returning back to the femoral vein, the chance of recirculation is more as compared to if you are draining from femoral vein and returning back to the jugular vein, the chance of recirculation is going to be less. Almost around 30% of recirculation is average, and that's the reason we require a higher flow in VV ECMO as compared to VA ECMO. So recirculation decreases the efficacy of VV ECMO. And how will you clinically diagnose? When there is a increasing SpO2 is decreasing, and when your pre-memory saturation is is increasing. So whatever the blood we are getting from the patient is more oxygenated, and when you the patient saturation keep on decreasing, that suggests that there is more of a recirculation. And this is what happens when there is a recirculation. The returning cannula, the same blood comes back to the drainage cannula. So you get a mix with pre-venous pre-pump blood. How will you detect recirculation? You see the cannula position on X-ray. Okay. You can see the visual inspection, the color of the pre-oxygenated blood and post-oxygenated blood. If there is not much of a difference, it means that there is more of a recirculation. You see, this is IVC drainage, this is an SVC drainage. So there is a good SVC drainage, there is no recirculation in SVC drainage. But if you see IVC drainage, that is more of an arterialized blood, so there is more of a recirculation in the IVC drainage. This is both the same. SVC drainage, this is IVC drainage, and this is the arterial blood. So the recirculation is in the IVC drainage. Okay. Again, here there is no recirculation, just see the color difference, but here see the color difference, there is a more of a recirculation. How will you calculate recirculation? There is a formula where you take a pre-ox blood minus your mixed venous saturation and divided by post-ox blood minus your venous saturation. If that is around around 30, that's okay. But it's more than 30, then the recirculation is more, and you have to do something to decrease this recirculation. There are an ultrasound ways by which you can calculate the recirculation, but I think that's not available in India. So you can have direct recirculation getting calculated from by the ultrasound method in the pre-ox tubings. But that is again not available here. What are the factors which affects recirculation? One is your pump flow. Second, the most important is your catheter position. Third is your cardiac output and right atrial size. The recirculation flow increases almost linearly with increasing pump flow. So if you keep on increasing pump flow, the recirculation chances are more. Okay. There is something known as effective pump flow, and there is something known as recirculation pump. Now this is diagram where you can see the effective pump flow. So whenever there is you increase the flow, the first graph is just curved. This is an effective flow. So when you increase initially the flow, the circulation saturation improves. Okay, but at one point of time, the saturation, even if you increase the flow, saturation remains steady, and after some time the saturation starts going down. The reason behind is if you go up on the further flow, what will happen is you get more of a recirculation rather than effective blood flow. So this is the effective blood flow, and this is the recirculation blood flow. So as you go on more on the flow, the recirculation will get more and more increases, and that's why after one particular stage, the effective flow will decrease and the recirculation will be more, and you get, even if you increase the flow, you get desaturation. So always whenever you are put the patient on ECMO, and if you see suddenly the saturation is going down, what you have to do is you have to define the curve. Now how will you define the curve is keep on going down on the flow. Suppose you are on 5 liters of flow and saturation is now come down to 84. You come down to a flow of 4.7 liters and see the saturation. If the saturation remains the same, it means you are at the standstill line of a effective curve. Okay, and you don't require 5 liters of flow, because even with the 4.7 liters of flow, you are going to get the same saturation. Okay, then further come down on the flow. Suppose your flow saturation remains the same by coming down on the flow, or it improves. It means there was more of a recirculation than and the flow was culprit for that. So always the first thing you can clinically do is you come down on the flow and see. If you come down on flow and the saturation drop, it means you are not much of a recirculation. You are still on the effective flow. Okay, but if you the flow remains saturation remains the same, or it decreases or it improves, it means you are more of a recirculation. That's a clinical way you can judge recirculation. How will you define? That is what I have written here. If recirculation is high, be in the pump flow. If patient saturation improves or stays the same, keep on winning till the time you get a best saturation. The saturation start dropping, keep on decreasing that, and that is what is called as an optimal flow. Okay. And that does not remain that case. Suppose the optimal flow is 4.5 liters, that does not remain constant for the same patient every time. After 2 hours, that optimal flow might even change it. Second is catheter position. As I told you, if your double lumen cannula is not properly placed, if the returning valve is not returning side is not facing the tricuspid valve, again you will get more of a recirculation. And from a dual lumen cannula, if it's a femoral is a returning cannula and jugular is a draining cannula, you get more recirculations. Third is whenever both the cannulas are very close to each other, the chance of recirculations are more. Catheter position can change when degree of lung inflation changes, neck edema increases, or patient moves. So with all that, the catheter position can change, and that can change the recirculation. So suddenly you can have a desaturation because of recirculation. And how you diagnose? By X-ray, by doing an ultrasound, you can diagnose the catheter position, and you try to reposition the catheter under sono-guided or under fluoroscopy. And if still doing everything you are not able to get a good saturation, recirculation still high, then what you have to do is you have to put one more additional cannula and try to get convert the patient into a VVV ECMO. So here there will be 2 drainage cannula and there will be 1 returning cannula. So if you drain from the jugular vein and retain the femoral vein, the recirculation is going to be more. Here the recirculation is going to be less. This double element can, I think I already discussed with this. The position is most important. You can see IVC holes, you can see SVC hole, and the returning cannula is facing the tricuspid valve. So the chances of recirculation, if it is well maintained position, is much less. But even if this goes a bit down, the chance of recirculation is going to be increased. The last one on which the saturation depends is going to be cardiac output and the RA size. Okay. If the cardiac output increases, the blood moves faster and the recirculation faster, and the recirculation is going to be. If the cardiac stands still, what will happen now? There is no blood going to tricuspid valve, so the most of the blood is going to come back to the drainage cannula, and you get a more of recirculation. When there is a severe hypoxia, when the cardiac contractility decreases, you get a more of a recirculation. If the cardiac contractility is good, recirculation chances is less. So what will you do to improve the saturation? You can switch over to VVV ECMO. First you try to correct recirculation, try to increase the flow. If you are not getting enough flow, or if the recirculation is still not improving, you can add one more cannula and switch over to VVV ECMO, 2 drainage cannula and 1 return cannula. Okay, that is can you do. Okay. If you are doing VVV ECMO, you prefer that either the cannula is, one is in SVC, one in IVC, or you can put a cephalate cannula. It's practical is going to be a little difficult to put a cephalate cannula, but if you can put a cephalate cannula, definitely that is going to improve the saturation to a great extent. So 3 cannula can reduce the recirculation. One is drained from IVC, SVC, IVC, and return is going to go to the directly to the RA. As I told you, cephalate cannula can decrease the recirculation to a great extent, increases the amount of oxygen added per pass, and it augments the venous drainage to by 1/3. And you can always measure the cerebral saturation and see how is the cerebral saturation. And last issue is, if you are still not able to maintain good saturation, you have come down to minimal levels, the lactals are going up. In that case, you might have switched over from VV ECMO to VA ECMO. So conversion from VV ECMO to VA ECMO is need for a circuit. So when the patient is on VV ECMO and he develops some hypotension and cardiac output decreases and they require some circulatory support, or right heart gets dilated, or you are unable to support the gas exchange adequately, then you switch over from VV to VA ECMO. This is a chart where there are different causes of hypoxia and how to diagnose this and how to treat it. So the first thing you should always think about is your mechanical things. So there can be a disconnection or gas leak from the blender. That can be the commonest thing, and you have to always check for the leak that comes suddenly. So you have to check that first thing. The patient becomes restless, again the consumption increases, and that you have to decrease in saturation. And what you need to do is you have to sedate the patient. If the cardiac output increases, again what you are doing is you are just doing a partial oxygenation. So definitely there will be a decrease in saturation, and what you need to do is you need to see why the cardiac output is increased and try to correct that. If there is a fever, patient is restless, patient on inotropic support, then you might have to come down on support and that. Okay. There can be an oxygenator failure because of a membrane edema or clogging of the oxygenator. Again, then in that case you have to change the oxygenator. The demand is more and there is a ECMO flow. Definitely you are not going to increase as per the demand. So if the demand is more, what you need to do is you have to increase the flow of the ECMO. So whenever for any reason metabolic activity increases, definitely that will lead to again decreases. Okay. There is no FR2 from the ECMO. Again there is a problem in the blender. The FR2 is not going properly. You have said FR2 100%, but there is something wrong with the blender, and the FR2 actually is going only 60%. Again there will be a problem. So you might have to change the blender. Is that recirculation can be the cause? You have to calculate the recirculation. If the recirculation is more than 30%, you need to do something for the recirculation. this is what a flow chart is. As I told you, always whenever there is any troubleshoot during an ECMO run, first thing and the simplest thing you need to do is you need to rule out the technical things, okay? Because that is easy to diagnose and easy to treat it. So first always think about whether the oxygen connector is proper, whether your blender is not functioning well, your FIO is not being changed. So first thing you always see that. Then you see the efficacy of oxygenator. So how will you check the efficacy of oxygenator? Is by checking the delta pressure. If the delta pressure is okay, it means your oxygenator is probably functioning well. If the delta pressure increases, it means the oxygenator is failing. In that case, you have to think about changing the oxygenator. If delta pressure is okay, fine, then you have to calculate the recirculation. The recirculation is more definitely you have to change, put either change the position of the cannula, or if nothing works, put the additional cannula. This is same flow chart expansion. So what is important is you can control the PCO2 by with the gas flow. So whenever the CO2 is an issue, you increase or decrease the sweep gas. If you increase the sweep gas, the CO2 level will come down. Control the PO2 with the blood flow. So you increase the blood flow, the saturation, the PO2 will improve. Remember, do not exceed the pressure limits. Maintain good venous pressure, so hydrate the patient well. If hypoxia persists either because of poor drainage or because of recirculation, put one more additional cannula for a drainage. Keep a watch on recirculation. If nothing helps, try to cool the patients. Try to maintain a higher hematocrit if there is a hypoxia. Most important is give rest to the lungs. And the last resource, which might from BB ECMO 2.